very much. Okay, so good evening, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I've got a couple of roles in Cisco, so I look after some of our day-to-day operations, but I also have an opportunity, which I think I'm quite fortunate in, to look at some of the up-and-coming technologies and where we think some of the industry is going. So what I'll try to do today is really just take you through some of our thinking, what we're hearing, and hopefully give some thought-provoking ideas in what is themed as an innovation event. So hopefully there's some more post-it notes that you'll be able to put up on those boards. So without further ado, I guess because I've said there's two parts to my role, I do certainly want to talk about the future, and I certainly want to talk about where we see things going. But before you can look forward, you do have to look at either the past, which I don't really want to do, so I'll look at the present in terms of what's happening right now. What are we seeing from technology? What are we seeing from the trends in the market that are affecting all of us as organizations or individuals? And then we'll look at the future, and we'll see how some of these things are going to translate into things that affect us going forward. Now, clearly, there are a significant number of market disruptions that are happening right now, whether it's mobility, whether it's video, whether it's social networking, whether it's cloud computing. These are probably all terms and things that you hear about every day, read about in the press, etc. And you know, I'm not going to talk about too many of those in too much detail, because those are well thought about. But let's talk a little bit about what the next generation employee or the next generation worker is really thinking about. Now, at Cisco, what we do every year is this report called the Connected World Report, or Connected World Survey. And what we do is we interview and talk to lots of organizations, individuals, all shapes and sizes, all ages, college students, etc. And we kind of get an idea of what is some of the thinking in terms of requirements for work, how people want to use technology, how are they using technology, and where do they kind of see things going in the future. And I won't bore you with statistics around some of the things that we found, but what I will share is some of the interesting things that we found, because we got some interesting things from a particular demographic, which was college students, and I guessed it was probably most appropriate to talk about it as we're here at a unique college. So I'll share some of those statistics, and some of these are very interesting because, you know, in part of the survey, this was thousands of, tens of thousands of college students around the world, who actually said, you know, as they come into the workplace, they'd actually be quite happy to accept a lower paying job if it offered them device flexibility. So if it allowed them to actually bring in the device of their choice and use anything that they wanted to, they'd accept a lower paying job. Clearly, these students don't have mortgages yet. There might be a slightly different thought process if they did. But it just shows you the mindset of the individuals that are coming out of colleges, and also it tells you about the workers that we, if you're in an organization, are potentially looking to hire. The other thing we found was actually no longer do people want to be in one place, and I think you know, that's clearly with the advent of broadband and connectivity and the internet in general, that's really ensuring that people don't have to be in one place to work anymore, and that I think will just continue to grow over time. The other interesting one we found is how important connectivity and the internet is to all of us, not just students. But particularly for these students and college students, it was really about the fact that actually the internet is as important as life's other essentials. I'd like to see some of them live without some of the other things, but we're not sure if that will happen. But clearly, being connected is a critical part of everyone's lives, and we think that's just going to continue to grow over time. Now, having said that, there is absolutely one new addiction in town, which affects each and every one of us in this room and any of the students that we're talking about, and that's this desire to be connected when we're mobile. You know, we've got this insatiable desire to be connected anytime, any place, anywhere, and that's absolutely not going to go away anytime soon. In fact, it will just grow and grow and grow over time. And we've seen tremendous things happening in the industry over the last few years, you know, whether it's people, devices like smartphones and tablets starting to outstrip, you know, conventional PCs and desktop compute devices. You know, we're finding that actually this form factor is just good enough to do our day-to-day work. And people want to use these devices, they want them to be with them all the time, and they want to be using them every time wherever they go. Interestingly, connected to that report was our desire to use these devices everywhere. In fact, in the survey, which is not listed here, it's the last thing we do at night. You know, before we even kiss our partner goodnight, It's actually just quickly check that smartphone or tablet. And it actually shows that in the morning routine for all of these students that we interviewed, and college students, actually the first thing that they want to do is check their smartphone. Then they'll probably dress, eat, and brush their teeth. I'm hoping somewhere in between there's a shower involved, but who knows. But clearly our desire to be connected and using these devices is fundamental to our lives now. Now, the other piece that's really growing is the fact that actually you can't buy a device today that isn't video enabled. You know, cameras are absolutely everywhere. You know, whether it's a PC or a Mac, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's new TVs from Samsung and LG, you know, cameras are absolutely everywhere. Video will be everywhere. The question is, can we connect these experiences in disparate environments to create a consistent experience for individuals and users and then organizations? Then maybe just want to ask you guys a question. So some significant things happened between 1980 and 1992. Does anyone want to throw out a guess as to what might have happened? And don't be quiet, because I'm on a timer. Mobiles? Yeah, absolutely. Mobiles happened. Anything else? Internet, I heard somewhere. Personal computer? Yeah, absolutely. So all of those are absolutely right, but they're not the ones I'm looking for. There was a generational shift. There were a number of babies born. This generation is now known as Generation Y, the Net Generation, Gen Y, etc. in the press. These are the 20-somethings that are now either our next employees, or if you're an organization, it's your next customer, who do things very, very differently. And in fact, as we heard from the earlier speaker, it's very much around changing the mindset. Because our desire to rank, tag, tweet, blog in our personal lives is finding its way in some way, shape, or form back inside organizations. So the traditional tools that companies have used are no longer the tools that actually employees that are being hired of this next generation that they're using in their day-to-day lives. So there has to be some fundamental changes happening. Now, maybe just a question to illustrate the point. Which finger do all of you use in this room to press a doorbell? Quick show. Yeah, that finger, that finger. If any of you have got teenagers or even younger children, next time just check which finger they use. It will be their thumb. And that's primarily because that generation has been brought up with all the technologies that you just mentioned, which was the mobile phone, which was the computer, the internet, tablets, etc., game-based stations. Just a very small anecdote, but just check that next time you're out with your family and your children. We're also seeing fundamental changes in the way things are consumed. There have been about 35 billion downloads on the App Store in the last 3 years. The way software is written, distributed, and ultimately consumed by every single one of us is going through the same change that the compute market is going through. We're consuming applications in different ways. We're consuming services in different ways. This has to be thought about when we're thinking about innovation. So now, having said that, we can start to look a little bit forward into the crystal ball. We can start to look at kind of what we think is happening and what we think could happen in the future, given if some of these technologies start to develop. Now, as part of some of the things we do look at the kind of trends in the kind of macro internet environment. Today, roughly, there are about 13 billion things connected to the internet. You know, this thing that we can't live without, there are about 13 billion things connected to it. That's roughly about 2 connected devices per person on Earth. We think by 2020 there will be 50 billion things connected to the internet. 50 billion things. There are going to be some seismic changes going on in the industry. The number of things that get connected is just going to extrapolate. This we're really calling the Internet of Things. And you hear about this notion that it's actually going to become the Internet of everything. So it doesn't matter whether it's your toaster, it doesn't matter whether it's your car, it doesn't matter whether it's your smartphone, or perhaps even animals. You know, things will be connected to this broad thing that is the Internet. And you might think, well, animals? Absolutely. There is a company in Holland called Sparked. They develop microsensors which farmers have been putting onto cows. These sensors tell the farmer if the cow's pregnant or unwell. It means the farmer can make decisions real time in terms of what they need to do. Each cow produces 200 megabytes of data every year per cow. This is absolutely happening in terms of changing the way economies, changing the way people do business. Now, to bring it back to life a little bit, the only thing is that things won't change. You know, things will definitely not stay the same. So let's imagine what can happen if we start to extrapolate some of these technologies. Now, everyone's seen one of these. Everyone's got a smartphone of some form. You know, my smartphone allows me to do certain things. I tend to use the delete key quite a lot because it's small and, you know, whilst it's very functional, it allows me to do a number of things, but not everything that I need to do. You know, many of you here will have tablets. You know, we've seen tablets starting to outstrip other devices in terms of shipments. You know, again, great device, but doesn't fit in my pocket. You know, maybe I need something in between. What we also find is actually in my presentation. You know, that's another thing that I use, which really I can go backwards, forwards, and that's about the interaction I can get. But what I do is I do similar things on a lot of these devices, a lot of these applications. And when we have multiple devices or applications which are trying to do the same thing, there's a natural opportunity for convergence. And we think going forward there will absolutely be convergence of devices. Now, I'm just putting this out there. We don't know if this is going to happen or not, but we think devices will absolutely converge. Let's say that it might happen to look like a watch. You know, it will have to absolutely be something wearable so we can carry it around with us. You know, it could be a necklace, it could be a watch, right? And this is a technology that actually perhaps has some incredible new things like, you know, holographic displays, the ability to project. There are already technologies that are being developed that allow very small projectors to be embedded inside devices. And we think that's going to continue to drive things forward in terms of driving innovation. Now, perhaps my keyboard gets displayed there for me to interact. My avatar gets displayed using this device. You know, I can interact in real time using this technology. And we really think that by connecting these devices, these will really allow you to connect and collaborate anytime, anywhere, any place. This notion that we want to work from anywhere will really come to life when we see these sorts of things happening. Now, let's move that a little bit more forward. Let's think about how reliant we are on technology and how we've got this, perhaps this notion of the super digital assistant. Everyone's heard of Siri here, I presume? Yeah, so Siri has two parts to it. Siri is a little bit of natural language processing and then the ability to tap into your diary and some internet resources. And you know, it's good for things like finding out the weather and you know, when's your dad's birthday and those types of things, which are great. But we think as we go forward in the future, let's say 5 to 10 years' time, perhaps Siri becomes an avatar, right, that you can interact with. And it becomes or it starts to interact with the super knowledge cloud, where it actually goes out and finds information that you really need to get your work done or get your activities done. And so just as an example here, imagine if, you know, I wanted to pull together the numbers for last quarter's meeting. You know, I can just actually ask the system, ask Siri to actually give me that information. It goes away and compiles that information. I can start to ask it to compare that data. It does that in real time for me. This really becomes something that becomes indispensable because I can actually get my work done. It's more than just an assistant. And what we start to see is that actually we start to scale knowledge at a tremendous rate when we start to scale things into the cloud. Now, we also think sensor technology is going to be fundamentally important going forward in the future. Now, sensors aren't anything new. I mean, sensors have been around for a long time. You know, we've got sensors in machinery, we've got sensors at home, tags on clothes, etc. And sensor technology, we think, will continue to evolve. So let's take one example. The car, for example. You know, we've probably all got one. And it probably already has a load of sensors in there. You know, sensors to measure, you know, fuel, sensors to measure tire tread, temperature, all these sorts of things. You know, more and more compute power is going into vehicles as we see going forward. Now, if we start to translate that into think about the Internet of Everything, where other things are also connected, imagine if the car can now connect and interact with sensors that sit outside of that vehicle. So sensors that perhaps sit on the road, that actually guide the car and stop it veering into another lane to potentially stop an accident. Imagine if the vehicle knows that there's a potential accident that's going to happen, and it knows the speed that you're traveling at, it's unavoidable, so it initiates the airbags. Imagine if it automatically starts to alert you that there's an ambulance coming behind and you need to move before you have even heard the siren. So imagine if the car starts to interact with the other sensors in the environment, and imagine what that could do. We also think, and there is technology already being developed around this, which is actually to monitor brain waves and blood pressure to make sure the car knows that if you're falling asleep, to alert you, probably to give you a little electric shock to wake you up. But other such technologies are being developed so that actually you can start to save lives. And what we're seeing is this connectivity This ability to connect everything starts to change society, not just the individual's experience. Technological limitations are receding dramatically, exponentially even. You know, it's not about the technology, it's not about the technical environment anymore. It's really just about our imaginations. And that's what I'd like to leave you with in terms of thinking about where some of this connectivity, some of these capabilities are really going to go in the future. And I think, you know, what students can do in terms of colleges around the world is to think about the opportunity that some of this can start to deliver in the future. So what I'd like to do is maybe just leave you with a video that would just start to share some of the thinking in terms of where some of this technology will go. Thank you.
We are living in an age of rapid change.
Mu recording njagala kwogera nawe ku kukozesa fertilizer.
Video is transforming our lives.
Great shot. What club is he using? Take care of that later.
Our world will be delivered to us.
Videootje aannemen?
Hallo mama.
Hoi, waarom ben je nog zo laat wakker?
Ik wilde jou mijn video laten zien. You gotta score!
How we work will never be the same.
谢谢您参加电话会议。很好，谢谢您的专业技巧。
कोई बात नहीं। अच्छा, मैं सब कुछ देख रहा हूँ।
Video will be with you, follow you, and know you.
Sí. Unir junta ahora.
Gracias por unirse a nosotros en muy corto plazo.
El gusto es mío de haber podido complacer.
Nos gustaría hablar de la cadena de suministro.
¿Qué te dije de Brasil?
Que acaba de publicar.
Déjenme ver.
It will be better than being there.
We may have given you too many pictures.
No, these are great. Oh, this one is perfect.
Our experiences will be more engaging.
Let's get some refrigerators.
Welterusten, schatje. Tot ziens.
Zeg maar welterusten.
Welterusten papa, welterusten mama.
Welterusten.
We will see more, do more, be more, and dream more.